Presidents and all of the members of Council 60 have been the best. I love them all, and I'm proud of one thing. Al Maldonado. He was proud to be a member, and I know he's proud for one thing. He brought this young man here, and I'm still waiting to love him.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. On that note, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Tina Adame. What a pleasure it's been to be up here with you. Thank you. All right.
While they're taking photos, I'd like to ask at this time that Mr. Alex Arroyos and Mr. Jesse Briones please come forward. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Alex Arroyo. Mr. Arroyo.
Thank you, please. I received a call at my home on that Sunday, that weekend. I received a call at home from the Houston Post. They wanted to interview me regarding the event that we had. And prior to that, we were having a birthday party at my home. And at that party, we discussed lighting a candle for Kennedy. And we were going to do it the next week. So when the reporter called me, I told him what we were going to do next week. He said, no, I want you to do it tonight. So I called Crespo and they donated a stand, and we went to the Lady of Guadalupe and lit the candle, and it came out in the paper. It was the Houston Post. And so tonight I've been asked and Mr. Briones to come up and do the lighting of the candle like we did that night.
As we approach the 50th anniversary of President Kennedy's assassination, we pause to honor the memory and legacy of an individual who transcended all politics. A few days after the assassination, a mass was held in honor of the president at Our Lady of Guadalupe Catholic Church, not too far from here. During the mass, 2 LULAC members lit a candle in memory of the slain president. Tonight, they reunite and reenact the lighting just as they did 50 years earlier. Please help me in welcoming Mr. Alex Arroyos and Jesse Barrones in lighting the commemorative candle in memory of President Kennedy. In tribute for tomorrow's anniversary, please rise for a moment of silence in memory of President John F. Kennedy. Thank you. Please be seated. And now for our keynote speaker. Just as we carefully considered the selection of our Master of Ceremonies, the committee put in the same amount of effort in trying to select our guest speaker. We were looking for a LULAC national leader who was involved in the Kennedy movement and influenced and got involved in the Hispanic community. We found our speaker in Hector Flores. Brother Flores is a 30-plus year member of the League and served as our national president from 2002 through 2006. A tireless advocate who was there for his community, as well as a great man and a great leader, and one of my top favorite presidents. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Hector Flores.
Muy buenas noches todos. Good evening, everybody. Go ahead and get your drink. We're going to be here a long time. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hector Flores, and it's my pleasure to be here tonight. It is indeed a great honor and privilege to be with you on this very important occasion, the LULAC 50th JFK celebration. I also would like to recognize this lady is here tonight who called me, Rosalie Solis Sharkey. Is she here tonight? Would you please stand up? She was 17 years old when she came to this event 50 years ago. She was a teacher. Now, her nephew just got elected to the Dallas Public Schools. He's the only Hispanic on our board, and he is a teacher and a Harvard graduate, doing a great job for us. Thank you for being here. I want to thank all of the LULAC officers, members, and friends who have made this event possible and so special. Would you please stand up and take a bow? You deserve it. Come on, everybody that was involved in putting this together. Let's hear it. I want to thank those 4 presidents from Chapter 60 who made it to the national level. It's not easy, believe you me. But I think I have on my list Judge Hernandez, that I recall, David Adame, Tijerina, and maybe Dovalina was from Chapter 60. Is that correct? Anyway, I know that they're not here today, but let's remember them also in our prayers, especially President Rick Dovalina, who is undergoing some health problems at the moment. I also want to thank our brother Rattler from St. Mary's University for being here tonight, doing such a great job. Mr. John Quinones, thank you. And I know we both had tacos at the same joint on 24th Street. Now, is there anybody that was here 50 years ago that did not get recognized? Is anybody that we missed? Is anybody here that we missed? Please stand up at this point so we can recognize you, and thank you for your presence.
Of the guys, just shaking hands and meet and greet, and then catch them, get them leaving the hotel. I think the last shot needs to then.
You made history for Mexican Americans, and you're making history by being here today with LULAC. This event is only one of many great projects that the LULAC officers and members of Chapter 60 and Houston have been involved in. Houston LULAC has always been at the forefront of civil rights, and their historical leadership is second to none in our country. And thanks for I want to thank particularly Senator Garcia for hosting the Latino policy recently. Is she still here? Sylvia Garcia, is she still here? And thank you for moving the LULAC agenda forward, because all this is a result of what happened here 50 years ago that evening, where we were recognized for our political clout. When I was asked to speak to you tonight, I had to reach back into my own personal history to revisit my memory bank as to John Kennedy and his legacy. I know, for one, I remember working the 1960 presidential campaign when I was 18 years old in Dilley, Texas, in Frio County. I also remember that you had to go pay a poll tax in order to vote. Can you imagine? And you know, the poll tax and other things like that were made to dissuade minorities from voting. I happened to work and taking the elderly to the polls because my cousin Juan Flores worked at the county and he had a program for the elderly. And so I was instructed to take my passengers, Doña Columba, Doña Feliz, Doña Lupe, Doña Catarina, and others. And when they would ask me something about who they should vote for, I said, remember old age assistance. Remember the county commodities. Remember who's provided it for you. These programs can end if you don't vote right. I can't tell you who to vote for, but remember that your vote is very precious and very important. Don't just give it to somebody that talks a big game and does not deliver for you.
Yeah, baby.
And obviously, they learned real quickly how to vote una palanca. Straight ticket voting. You can, and now it's early voting. But anyway, you know that Democrats during that era were changing. They were very, you know, and LULAC has sued both Democrats and Republicans over our history. You should know that. But anyway, helping us support the Democratic Party in Texas was the fact that the National Democratic Convention of 1960 endorsed civil rights, school desegregation, equal opportunity, fair housing, and voting rights. Does that sound familiar to LULAC members? It sounds like they took our page from our book about what we wanted in this country for Mexican Americans and for Latinos and others. These were all the goals of LULAC then and now. Consequently, many LULAC leaders joined the movement to create political awareness of our community in Texas and elsewhere. You may recall, again, those efforts to try and impede our vote. You can remember how tough it was getting a job in this state, even getting to school. I know because I went to a separate but unequal school, like many of you here, if you're of my age. But I know that the work that was done by the Viva Kennedy clubs brought out the vote. Never in the history of this country have more Latinos voted for a candidate like they did in 1960 for the Kennedy-Johnson ticket. In fact, 91% of Latinos voted for the ticket. And even though Kennedy-Johnson lost to the Anglo vote in Texas by 150,000, ultimately they won Texas by 50,000 votes because of the Latino or Mexican-American vote. During 1960 presidential campaign, various organizers of the Viva Kennedy clubs were targeting various cities, including Houston. In fact, the first Viva Kennedy club was founded right here in Houston, Texas. Thank you, Houston. San Antonio, Laredo, Corpus Christi, El Paso. Voter registration campaigns flourished. Some of the leaders that were involved in this political movement were people like Hector P. Garcia, Albert Peña, Henry Gonzalez, John J. Herrera, and many other Mexican leaders that also had the LULAC hat. I recall having a meeting with Mr. Gustavo Gonzalez, who was organizing in San Antonio and Laredo. And you know that LBJ had also taught in the Mexican part of town in Cotula, 16 miles from my hometown, Dilley, Texas. It was easy to get people to support the Democratic ticket because Johnson was a Texan and Jack Kennedy was Irish, Catholic, and with movie star looks. Jack Kennedy was a very eloquent speaker and campaigner, despite his heavy Irish accent. You'll remember he used to call Cuba, Cuba. The Kennedy-Johnson team prevailed with great Mexican-American support in Texas and New Mexico, California, and Illinois. No other president has been able to garner that kind of vote from our community because we believed in him and what he said and what he stood for. After the 1960 presidential campaign, President Kennedy appointed Reynaldo Garza as a federal judge. And we probably would have never had somebody like Lupe Salinas be a U.S. attorney in this country if he hadn't set the precedent then to appoint somebody. He appointed Raymond Tellez from the mayor of El Paso. He was appointed ambassador to Costa Rica. The Viva Kennedy clubs also played a major role in the campaign for president, and President Kennedy showed his appreciation to Mexican Americans by coming here 50 years ago. Thank you, Houston. Henry B. Gonzalez was elected to Congress in San Antonio with support of the Viva Kennedy Club leadership. Mexican-American political cloud began to take shape as a result of the 1960 presidential campaign, and much of the leadership again was LULAC and American GI Forum. The value of our votes went noticed during his campaign. Kennedy assumed the leadership role of the U.S. as the president, and he was confronted with many issues, such as the Cuban Bay of Pigs, if you will recall, a fiasco, the missile crisis, where I remember my buddy Arnold and I in our room saying goodbyes because we didn't know if a nuclear war was going to happen the next day. And also the Sputnik going over to outer space, and the U.S. was being left behind because we hadn't invested in education like we should. But Kennedy was going to change all of that. And he did, in fact, put eventually a man in the moon. And you know that Vietnam and the daily brutal attacks of African Americans in the South and also in the Southwest because of brutality and Jim Crow laws. His policy programs created the Peace Corps and landed a man in the moon with support of science and exploration. Medicare, civil rights, and other issues would be addressed later during the Johnson administration that started with the Kennedy administration. The international image of the President and First Lady were one of charm and elegance. Both Jack and Jackie had great looks, great class, and great intelligence. They were an inspirational couple. Their family outings were followed and admired by many, not only in the U.S., but in the entire planet called